Dr. Christina Conolly, and welcome again to our MCPS video series, Waymaking. Our goal is to help families make their way through many of the emotional challenges that we are faced with today. This video is a part of our Courageous Conversation series that we are having. We are talking about tough conversations that may make people feel uncomfortable but are vital as we cope during the pandemic. I have with me today Mr. Byron Johns, who is the chairperson of the Montgomery County branch of the NAACP and chairperson of the Education Committee and the Parents Council, and Mr. Diego Uriburu, who is the executive director of Identity. Both gentlemen are the co-founders of the Black and Brown Coalition. I also have with me today Mr. Troy Boddy, who is the director of the MCPS Equity Unit. Thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Our pleasure. I love your energy.
Thank you.
Glad to see you.
Thank you all. So with my first question, so let's get some background information about our topic today. So can you share some of the experiences of the Black and Brown communities in Montgomery County during the pandemic? Have any of the members in these communities experienced racism or discrimination due to events that have occurred during the pandemic?
Well, let me start off, and I will thank you again for this. The NAACP is longstanding, been in Montgomery County and nationally, has been at the forefront of dealing with civil rights and trying to combat discrimination. We do locally have a hotline, and we receive weekly about anywhere from a half a dozen to a dozen calls to address everything from labor to housing issues, certainly education, which I chair, as well as a number of other committees that are dealing with various discrimination. Fortunately, in Montgomery County, we've not seen as many of we haven't at least been reported as many of the kind of incidences that we hear about in other parts of the nation, where particularly African-American males wearing masks are being harassed in public spaces. So that has not been reported, at least widely. We still have other issues going on, and as you know, there are still a number of things with law enforcement and other areas in which African Americans are largely the brunt of issues that certainly are concerning, including more recently a shooting that is under investigation.
So from what we see racist practices as it relates to housing, particularly, where landlords are not respecting the eviction freeze, particularly when many of our constituents do not have formal leases, so people take advantage of that. And though not racist practices, there are lots of inequities that are playing right now regarding food insecurity, housing insecurity. Because of these issues and the level of trauma that exists in our communities, the need for mental health services has skyrocketed. We are very concerned about educational inequities. Despite the Herculean efforts of MCPS, there's thousands of Black and Brown and other students who are struggling during COVID-19, and this period has nothing but made a situation that was already bad even worse. The other piece that is really concerning us has to do with employment. Many of our folks have lost their jobs, and we are concerned about what's going to happen when COVID comes to an end, because it will be harder for Black and Brown folks to gain employment again when many of their jobs might not exist. On a bright note, particularly for both Black and Brown, members of the community are recognizing efforts that in the past they haven't, no? And they're calling some members of our communities heroes because they're the front lines of the supermarkets, etc. And they're now deemed essential workers, are not getting compensated for that. So for a county that sits so close to DC, where a president used to call them thieves, rapists, whatever, and now is calling many of our folks, not him, but our communities are calling them heroes. It's a nice change for us to witness.
Right, and thank you. And I know it's like my dad works for a grocery store, and so people are always very thankful with them and then him working, and his employer is giving him like hazard pay so for being these essential employees. And I mean, even my daughter, for one of her SEL lessons at her school, they had us work on, like, we created a sign for one of the delivery workers. Like, we purposely ordered like delivery through one of those companies, and we made a care package for the delivery worker, as a way for our children to learn, to show gratitude, for those who are providing these essential services for us. So yes, as you're saying, so that is a positive thing. With all crises, there's dangers and opportunities. And one of the opportunities is to show folks who people kind of like, don't really think about, folks who are performing many of these services. What can we do to show them gratitude during this time while we're facing these dangers? But as both of you have said, there's still inequities that are going on within all of these communities within our healthcare system. And it's kind of like, and one of the things, it's not like these problems weren't there before the pandemic. It's that the pandemic is shining a big, bright light on everything, and people are seeing it even more than what was going on before. Like they're seeing it on the news, they're seeing it on social media, and so people are becoming aware of these issues now. So thank you all for sharing this information with us. So then my next question is, so Albert, go ahead, Diego.
Christina, no, I think that we've failed badly by not mentioning how the health inequities are playing, particularly with Black and brown families who are disproportionately getting COVID, are not getting the treatment, and they lost their jobs and therefore the health insurance, so they're getting big bills. And then despite the wonderful efforts from the county, many of them don't have a place where they can socially isolate, therefore entire families are getting COVID. So that's a black mark for us as a community.
Yeah.
Despite the wonderful efforts.
Yeah, that is exactly right. I mean, that's an area I was going to jump in also. I'm glad Diego did. Is the discrimination, manifests itself very clearly in just what communities are getting access to testing, what communities are getting access to PPE earlier. Many of the healthcare workers, as you said, in the grocery and a lot of other front lines, working in the nurseries, are in assisted living or nursing homes, are going to be Black and brown workers, and these people still are not getting the kind of access to testing and protective equipment that they should be. So it's a shame. It's been highlighted. We've certainly seen it on the news for the last few months, but we still have not fixed it. So it's action, not words, that needs to happen.
And right.
Christina, I was just going
to go ahead, Troy.
Yeah, it's just made the invisible visible. And so it's in everybody's faces. So you can't say these things don't exist. There's in a lot of our work, we talk about people perceive racism as those individual acts. I say something bad to you on the street, call you a name, but it really is a system. And people have to understand what we're seeing as a result of COVID-19 is the result of systems that have been in place to oppress people of color and poor people. And so all this is being revealed. And like Byron said, what are we going to do about it?
Right. And so, and as we're going through this and we talk about the advocacy efforts that need to happen next, as we're going through all of these things and what are we doing to address them? You know, me as a mental health provider, you know, we all knew that there was issues with our mental health systems and mental health providers and access to mental health care before all of this. And this pandemic has brought to light, oh my God, we have all these people with mental health issues, and even more now due to the stress of this, what are we going to do about it? And so everyone, I have never in my career heard more people talk about, we need mental health, we need more mental health than I have right now. And so, because again, it wasn't like there wasn't people with mental health problems before this. It wasn't like people didn't experience discrimination before this. But now, like, people are talking about it. And, you know, from an advocacy perspective, what are all these associations, nonprofits, all these groups, what are we going to do in order to start to address it in terms of legal actions, in terms of getting the supports necessary, people rallying around getting these resources needed for folks? So, which then talking about resources, that ties me into my next question for all of you. So then, as we're thinking about this, so then what are the resources that are available to support families that have been negatively impacted by COVID-19?
I'll be happy to start. And I have to say, from 1 to 10, Montgomery County is a 9.9. But again, despite these efforts, it's really difficult to solve situations that are not as a result of the present, but as a result of years and years and years of inequities. So the county is pouring quite a bit of money to support those who are not receiving funds, unemployment funds or federal checks, to support with money for rent, for food insecurity. The nonprofit sector is doing an amazing job, all hands on deck, to reach out to these families and to have them access those supports. The school system has distributed tens of thousands of Chromebooks and Wi-Fi, but unfortunately, it's not enough, because the Chromebooks and the Wi-Fi cannot suppress the loud voices of overcrowded places, cannot suppress the anxiety of parents who are afraid of not having enough to eat or being evicted. But we get a 10 for trying. We really get a 10 for trying. So, and lucky for us, the county has invested on a huge network of nonprofits for decades that also are quite embedded in the most affected neighborhoods and communities, particularly Black, brown, and poor. So I am extremely hopeful that all families who need it will get support here in Montgomery County. That doesn't mean that we don't have a lot of work to do after, but it is quite amazing, quite impressive.
Well, there are a couple of things that I think people can, the key thing right now is information. All the things that Diego has talked about that the county has stood up, there's still the connection. There's still a need to get the parts of the county where small communities, small pockets of people are. We have a fairly significant land population, and connecting the sources of support with where the need for support is still an issue. It really comes down to a lot of information. So the first thing is the county has stood up a pretty robust website through Montgomery County Maryland.gov that points to where you can get small business loans, which frankly have been undersubscribed to. I'm surprised at the low application rates for that. They can get housing rental assistance. Turns out Identity and Diego's organization is supporting the county's efforts, amongst others that are doing that. There are a number of areas. If it's discrimination, certainly the NAACP's hotline, and we'll provide that as an overlay there.
And I know in MCPS, we also have a lot of resources that are available for families. So if you're in need of help, so especially within my office that I work in, the Office of Student Family Support and Engagement, we have our pupil personnel workers, we have our parent community coordinators, we have our ESOL transition counselors, our school psychologists. We're all here and available. So if you're a family who needs help, you can contact your school, and then they will get you in touch with us, and so that we can then provide support or get you in contact with the community resources that you need if you're watching this. And so on another thing, especially if you've come around and you've experienced an event due to discrimination. And so one of the things that I've seen in many communities is the underreporting of these incidents. And so, our police partners, the human rights groups, all these folks, the NAACP, Identity, there are all these folks that are here to support you when you've experienced these events. But if you don't report it, then people won't know and it won't get counted, and it's like it never happened. So we want people to know, like, if you see something, say something, and go forth and do something by contacting somebody so that we can get these reports documented, so that we can do something about all of these things that have happened. Go ahead, Byron.
Yeah, one more thing that's really critical and urgent, and I think doesn't necessarily, I know Diego's certainly served a lot of people on that, but we are doing more, and particularly around food insecurity. We talk about it, but they're not only the people who have traditionally been food insecure. We've got a much wider set of across the county in all demographics in all areas. And there is, through the county council, the food council has been stood up and supports a number of food distribution sites. We've started to connect the interfaith communities. A number of Black churches are now starting to become food distribution sites. And there is a county council food security task force. So there is a food locator, food distribution locator based on the county council's website again. So very important. That need is not going to go away anytime soon.
So Byron, I think that if anyone has any need, the best bet is for them to call 311, and they can help anyone guide them to the resources that they need. 311 is a great asset that the county has.
Thank you. And yes, so and absolutely. So thank you all for sharing that. And so then my last question for us today is, so many families are witnessing events that are occurring in Maryland and around the country that are on TV or social media that are involving concerns with racism and discrimination. So where can families find resources to talk with their children around their concerns with racism and also around issues around stigma?
So it's interesting though, because one thing, I was looking at some research recently, where it really talked about how much do families talk about race. And what it found was roughly 65 to 63%, let me see, what was it? 63 to 66% of African American and Asian Americans families discuss race at least a little bit in their households, whereas 50% and 49% of white and Hispanic adults talk about race, from the folks they serve. So one of the things is oftentimes we're told not to talk about race and not to elevate differences. So what we have to do as adults is be comfortable with that, having that conversation selves first. So, I always suggest to people, ask yourself, why is this hard for me to talk about? And then, because equity work and racial justice work is all about inside out. So I got to look at myself before I can have the conversation with others. What do I need to know and learn? So do I associate with diverse people in my world? And do I, or at least am I exposed to multiple images of people who are different than me? And then as adults, this helps us to better be able to respond to our kids and engage them in conversations. And so just a couple of things it's okay to talk about differences. So especially when we're talking about young kids, you can start talking to kids as young as 2, they start to realize differences, and notice differences between people, because our brains are hardwired for that. So we have to start talking about differences, and it's okay that people don't all look alike. Stick to the facts. If you're not sure, just state what you see. Don't overdo it. And watch your language as you talk to kids. And again, you want to go for color fairness, not color blindness, because those blanket statements, we're all the same. We are the same in a lot of ways, but there are a lot of differences as well. And we, again, need to recognize those things. So parents just have to be comfortable. Adults have to be comfortable about having those conversations that they see. And particularly, I'm from a background, so picture books, one really good resource to engage younger children. Older children, we just need to have that conversation. But this is one. It's not showing up. It's not going to show up for the camera. But it's called Race Cars, and it's a story about a black race car and a white race car. And it talks about systematic oppression, like many of the things we were talking about, but it comes at it from a kid's level. But ultimately, other resources that people can use is teaching tolerance. Although it's primarily for educators, there's lots of good resources for parents, and the Anti-Defamation League also has lots of really good resources that we use. And once we get back in school, we can do it virtually, but PTA meetings, we've done sessions on how to talk to your kids about race. So those are some of the resources and just opportunities for adults to engage.
Thank you. And I know it's funny. I mean, that's timely. I was on social media this morning, and I saw one of my neighbors whose daughter goes to school, is in the same class with my daughter, and she was wondering like how to talk to her children about what's going on in the news over the past couple of weeks with the violence that has occurred. And and they're trying to figure out how to talk to folks in a developmentally appropriate fashion. It's one thing like when you're talking to your high schooler about what's going on, they're seeing the news, they're watching it themselves, they're watching the videos of what's going on. Mm-hmm. But it's different when you're talking with a younger kid, which you can still have conversations, around race, around discrimination that takes place. But you don't have to, like, for me, like I haven't shown my daughter the violent images that have been occurring or the videos that have been out on social media because she's young and I didn't feel that was appropriate for her. Right. But we can still have conversations around discrimination, and we do. So there is, a different way of trying to have those conversations and broach those things, because they're going to hear about things, or their friends who they may be having a virtual play date with may say something. So, right.
And so we have to prepare them for not only just appreciating and respecting diversity, but also how to shield themselves for how do they respond to it in a way that's healthy, that keeps them safe, but interrupts it. And the other thing I just wanted to throw in too, I don't know why I forgot, but we also do study circles with schools, with adults and students. So oftentimes these issues, we frame the conversations around these issues of things that are happening out in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
I just want to bring up a couple things in addition to talking about it. The part of the issue in my experience of this is the talking about it at some level it becomes frustrating, much like the incident we recently saw in Minnesota breaking out into violence and people protesting, is because this has been going on for a long time. So it's more than, again, like we talked about the other discrimination, it's kind of like, what do you do about it? And so beyond talking about it, finding constructive ways for kids to engage in ways to vent their emotions, to feel like they are part of a solution and not part of that. So I know with the NAACP, we have the Youth Council, we have young adults groups, so that there are both support mechanisms, but also ways in which they can advocate and be a part of collective advocacy, where they're, you know, seeing and feeling that they're not just frustrated by being a victim of this circumstance and these systems, but actually working proactively to fix the systems that are, you know, part of the cause.
And one of the best ways to fix those systems is for all of our children to engage civically, and when they come to age, to vote and to choose a government that will respond to our needs, our community's needs.
Right, absolutely. I know, and I remember when I turned 18 and I went to vote for the first time, and I was with my mother, and, you know, she was just so proud, and I was so excited, like, oh my God, I get to vote, you know, and it was a place of pride, you know, in terms of being able to do part of my civic duty, in terms of being able to go and express myself. And, you know, one of the things we want to make sure people understand that, because they may be like, oh, it's the primary, you know, my vote doesn't count. Like, no, your voice does count. Your vote counts. There's not just issues at the federal level, the state level, the local levels. I mean, you got to sit there and go out and vote and voice your issue, you know, voice your concerns, because your vote counts. So make sure that everyone, I cannot stress enough, please make sure everyone goes out and votes, because it's important. And going through this, and from a mental health side, talking about the feelings of control, because when these incidents happen, you know, across our communities, and you may see people protesting or rioting or doing other things because they feel like they've lost their sense of control. What can we do to actively engage in things that will support and continue to better our communities in terms of making significant changes when you're seeing these issues of race, these issues of discrimination going about? And what can we do to support folks when they do this? I mean, like for me, I do a lot of advocacy work around mental health. And so, you know, I get the opportunities to work with national groups. I get to go to the federal government, the state government, and voice my concerns and talk to legislatures and write letters and emails and so forth in order to try to advocate for more of the mental health things. I mean, you're seeing issues like this, you know, what can you do in order to proactively talk to folks who are in power, and to make sure that your voices are heard, and going out and sharing this. And talking to your friends, because sometimes I've seen a lot of things online of people feeling like, I'm tired, I'm seeing so much going on, I'm tired. And with the stress of the pandemic and this, you know, can build on each other. So making sure that you're doing a lot of self-care, go out for a walk, take time to get some rest, talk to your family, your friends, and just find ways to help you to relax and de-stress. So, and also, if you need to, turn off the news, turn off social media, if you're feeling like it's too much. So make sure you're taking time to take care of yourself.
I would also say for our younger viewers here, who have a lot of energy, are very savvy with a lot of social media, they have a real opportunity that they can do 2 minutes of TikTok. They can really do 2 minutes of a video, which Diego and I just did a video to submit a testimony to the Board of Ed yesterday. First time for Diego, or Diego and I together, at least. But you know, it is extremely powerful to have their voices and their video of what they want to see. We've seen some amazing young people at elementary school levels, middle school and high school, testify at the Board of Ed, testify at the county council, by just sending in a video, writing a one-page, what they want to see, and it is so impactful. So their voices should not be minimized. They should not, you know, self-check, as we used to call it. And they need to put their thoughts to paper or to video, and to get them in the hands of the people who make decisions. They are being heard.
So one key issue is that the more we are in the fight, the more people will listen. And that, the Black and Brown Coalition is an example of that in education. No, We both have tried independently to make some changes and we couldn't. And unfortunately, we looked more at our differences than at the things that united us. And now we have the Black and Brown Coalition, and you are now dealing with 55% of the school student population. And it's a lot more difficult to say no to the two of us combined than to one of our communities alone. So we also have to be smart about how we go about changing the world.
So, and the three of you have shared so much, you have such a wealth of knowledge and expertise about this topic, and I really, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank all three of you for taking your time and joining us today for Waymaking. And of course, we always want to thank our viewers for joining us for the show, and that if you have additional questions and topics to discuss on the show, please visit the link on your screen. And also you can go onto our YouTube playlist and you can see additional episodes of Waymaking. So I want to thank our viewers again, and please join us next time on MCPS Waymaking.